Hi, besties. Welcome back. It's Mary from Sister Wives Daily. You know that feeling when a carefully controlled TV image finally gets away, and suddenly it all comes together? That's what happened at the most recent Sister Wives Tell All. But this time, it wasn't one of the Brown family members who delivered the jaw dropping moment. It was someone entirely unexpected, and it completely flipped everything around. What we witnessed wasn't show for the cameras. It was reality, raw and unvarnished. For the first time ever, someone had the guts to call out behavior, not for attention or camera time, but because they couldn't hold it in anymore. And that person? Christine's new husband, David. He didn't just talk. He revealed what many of us have long suspected. Let's get real. This show has never presented the complete picture. We got glimpses, heartbreak, manipulation, wives shrinking into the wings in the background as Kody Brown took center stage, but nobody ever actually told us out loud what was really going on in that so-called spiritual family. Nobody, that is, until now. And David? He didn't pull any punches. Looking straight into the camera, David called it what it was, a family dynamic built not on love, equality, or faith, but on power, control, and emotional competition. He didn't try to dress it up. He didn't excuse it. He just told the truth, and it landed like a thunderclap. If you're a new subscriber, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss one thing. Because what we're diving into today, it's more than one episode. This is about years of silence, glossed over hurt, and one man finally cutting through it all. I want to hear your opinions too. Leave a comment. This is a conversation that we all need to be a part of. So, who is David actually? And why does he matter so much for what he said? David was not raised in front of TLC cameras. He was not raised on coordinating couches and gentle excuses such as, "This is just how plural marriage is." No, he entered this with open eyes and an open head, and most importantly, a past forged by personal experience. His truth begins far earlier than the moment he met Christine. Two of David's older sisters had been in a polygamist community in Mexico, different from Christine's initial society, yet close enough that the warning signs were clear. He witnessed what became of them, how the system distorted their feelings, eroded their self-assurance, and converted sisterhood into quiet competition. And he never forgot. David saw his sisters escape and start anew, and so when Christine came into his life, he fell not only for her, but also saw her pain, the familiar terror, the wounds that lingered invisibly from years of being gaslit, pushed aside, and silenced. And so, when David sat down at last on that tell-all show, he didn't blink. He said what no man in this narrative ever had, that Kody's behavior wasn't just flawed or complicated, it was textbook emotional abuse. He spoke the words we've all been tiptoeing around for years, because Kody wasn't just a man struggling with communication. He gaslighted, ongoing. We saw him manipulate Christine's suffering into jealousy, label her dramatic, and divert every sincere question. He got her doubting reality and blamed her for requiring something so basic as love, support, and respect. And favoritism? It wasn't just obvious, it was outright. We all witnessed it. Robin wasn't merely Kody's favorite wife, she was the exception to all rules, the center of gravity, the one he arrived for, fought for, put first. And the others? They were left to fight over the emotional leftovers. Robin was never held to the same standard. While the other wives were left scrambling for crumbs of attention, she got the full husband treatment. And rather than seeing the imbalance, Kody twisted it into a moral shortcoming, telling the other wives simply they didn't act well enough to be loved by him. Then came David, and everything changed. David didn't play along with the pretense. He didn't dance around the truth. He sat with us and told us, in plain and direct terms, that this wasn't about personalities, it was about power. The tumult, the tension, the incessant bickering among the women. It wasn't arbitrary, it was deliberate. In David's telling, men in such systems gain when women are fragmented, distracted, and fighting each other all the time. Because when the women are fighting among themselves, they're too depleted to challenge the man at the top. And what did Kody do? Exactly like David had told him he would. He didn't think, he didn't possess anything. Rather, he responded angrily, defensively, spinning the situation, deflecting responsibility, and making it all a personal attack. And by doing this, he validated David's argument right on the money. Kody isn't only a man stumbling over love, he's a man so desperate to have control that he constructed a life in which broken, fragmented women were more manageable. For more than a decade, sister wives tiptoed along a thin line, selling us dysfunction masquerading as devotion. TLC provided us with drama, yes, but they blunted the edges. They medically edited decades of emotional abuse, favoritism, and manipulation into something they referred to as growing pains. They assured us it was merely the price of plural marriage, but now the curtain is coming down. Even Suki, the tell-all host, tended to play along. She seldom posed the tough questions. She flirted with the both sides narrative, framing Kody's behavior as simple misunderstandings or misaligned expectations, as if gaslighting your wife for decades could be blamed on love languages not jiving. But audiences were smarter than that. We watched Christine crumble, finally asserting her pain, and instead of respecting that moment, it was conditioned as bitterness. When Janelle conveyed the way she felt shut out, she was branded stubborn. Kody's consistent absence from birthdays, holidays, and family discussions weren't addressed. Those were dismissed as miscommunication or growing apart. But none of that was the complete truth. The truth was grimier. This wasn't a matter of misunderstandings, it was a matter of manipulation, of a man leveraging guilt, religion, and shame to keep control, of women being taught repeatedly to accept less, be quiet, and make peace with pain. And that's why David's voice landed so hard. He wasn't raised in this. He wasn't trained to keep the family's public image intact. So when he realized it for what it was, he named it unapologetically. He wasn't there to save Kody's ego. He was there to tell the truth, that this was not an unusual relationship dynamic. It was a system in place that was meant to train women into competing for male attention. And worse, the men enjoyed it this way. David's words shattered the slick veneer TLC has maintained for more than a decade. He cut through the hype, and once he'd done that, we couldn't unhear it. Christine and Janelle? They weren't melodramatic. They were responding to years of emotional manipulation. They weren't difficult. They were survivors gaining the strength to say, enough. And Christine, you can see it in her now. She stands taller, lighter. She talks confidently, clearly. The weight of decades of emotional labor is lifted. She's finally in a relationship where she's not struggling for space. She's safe. David doesn't shut her down. He listens, he honors her healing, respects her narrative, and walks along with her rather than in front of her. That sort of love, not loud, not performative, but real, and it's evident. Christine isn't only healing from Kody, she's healing from a whole system that conditioned her to remain small, a system that instructed her to settle, be quiet, and be grateful for whatever scraps of love they gave her. But now that she's taking back her voice, Kody can't cope. Even after she's moved on, even after she's healed, Kody still attempts to manipulate her growth into something negative. In the tell-all, he dismissed Christine's transformation as bitterness. He blamed her for still competing with Robin, as if Christine's healing had anything to do with Robin whatsoever. It's literally wild. Kody's so far in his own ego, he really does think the story's about him. But Christine didn't leave Robin. She left Kody because he quit showing up, because he quit trying, because he quit on her long before she quit on him. And let's be honest, Kody's unease with David tells us everything. David, steady and calm, speaks the truth in a manner which obviously unsettles Kody. Why? Because David is all the things Kody opted to abstain from. David speaks the truth, even when it's painful. He doesn't have to control the conversation or revise history. He just lays it out there. And that unsettles Kody, because truth, particularly coming from another man, undermines the meticulously crafted public persona he's gone to such lengths to sustain. And talk about photos. Kody's shattered when he admitted to something that fans had been guessing about for years. In the tell-all, he confessed he'd had premarital sex, and jaws dropped, not because we didn't think so, but because of how long he'd kept it under wraps. For decades, Kody played the cloak of moral superiority, espousing religious purity and presenting himself as the righteous head of the Brown family. He forced purity culture on the women, on Robyn most blatantly, and constructed his whole spiritual persona around those ideals. But behind the scenes, secrets. He'd only ever shared with Robyn and Meri, keeping Christine and Janelle out of the loop. Why? Because had they known, it could have changed everything. It could have affected his position in the church, affected his marriages, and ruined the immaculate image he held dear. And the hypocrisy? It's unbelievable. This is the same man who saw Robyn cry on national TV, explaining how her last marriage had left her used up, how her value had been broken. Kody nodded in somber agreement, never revealing that he himself had a history. He sat silently with her, keeping the shame to himself while hiding behind the veil of his own decisions. Then came that moment when Suki asked about his past, and he immediately snapped, "We're not talking about my sexuality." No one had even mentioned it, but the way he shut it down, fast, defensive, almost panicked, it struck a nerve so deep fans couldn't help but ask, what is he so afraid of? Was it ego, insecurity, or something else entirely? Whatever it was, it did nothing but reinforce what so many of the viewers had already come to feel, that Kody has always cared more about appearances than fact. And that's why David's appearance was so impactful. In a few brief paragraphs, David dispelled the myth that this was ever about equal love. He tore away the veil of polygamy as family values and revealed it for what it truly is: a system designed to shut up women, keep them in line, and concentrate power in the hands of one individual. And here's the strongest part. It wasn't from someone within the inner circle. It wasn't a wife. It wasn't a child. It was someone on the outside, someone who saw the dysfunction from the periphery and wouldn't turn away. David hadn't practiced. He wasn't being diplomatic. He simply spoke the truth. And in doing that, he didn't just represent Christine. He represented all of the women who've ever been told to shut up, to be nice, to keep the peace and sacrifice their own voice. This wasn't merely another tell-all. This was a reckoning.